Hello everybody, this is Kiereek here, and today we're looking at Valkyria Chronicles. This is a review, part of the review and release series, and Valkyria Chronicles is a game that I started playing basically because I had an itch for Fire Emblem that wasn't being scratched, and I wanted to find a kind of strategy, turn-based game that filled that void in my life, seeing as I haven't been able to play the last couple of Fire Emblems. Now, it's set in kind of a fictional World War I, World War II kind of era, and you're protecting the fictional nation of Gallia from invasion by the Empire. It has several story missions, skirmish missions, and even little bonus missions that kind of help develop characters as well. The pros of this game, well, the story is the number one pro, I would say. It is fairly well written. There are some cheesy lines at times, voice acting, kind of what you get with anime games in general. I find the voice acting is always a little bit stiff, but the cutscenes are marvelous. The character development is really good, and the characters are likable. At first, I didn't really care for Rosie or Largo, and it was really annoying because it felt like they were forced into the story, but they kind of grew on you over time and as they explore their character and what kind of people they are. Now, it runs amazing. I can't believe it, how well it runs, especially because it's a PC port. Usually those things don't run so well, but it ran well enough that I was able to record my gameplay video with plays.tv, which usually is not good for that kind of thing because the audio desyncs when there's too much demand. There was so much free processor room in this game that I could do it without any audio desync. I think that's a big fucking achievement. The combat is challenging, yes, but it is good and it's rewarding. So when you are gunned down, it doesn't feel great. There's the challenge. But when you're defending a point, when you're sniping out an opponent, and that guy's fucking body just ragdolls down, it feels good. It feels like you did something that was a little difficult, not just blowing through everybody like some sort of OP superhero. There's lots of good to say about it, and yet I'm having trouble finding actual points. I mean, when you run up to somebody, you shoot them, the controls are great, I find they're accurate, the feeling is there, the voice acting doesn't get too repetitive, and the characters are enjoyable even when they're on the combat field. It's not just the cutscenes, they have their little lines that they say. Overall, it's really fucking good. The only kind of cons I have for it is that it's kind of unforgiving at times, and I'll explain that in more detail here. If you're a new player and you're not used to this genre, maybe you'll be okay because you'll get into it and you'll learn it right away. But for me, it was a little bit stark coming from turn-based shooting games where you are not attacked when it's your turn, unless it's in a retaliatory attack. Well, this game has a suppressing fire kind of mechanic where if an enemy sees you and you're within their range, they will fire at you. And boy, can you get wasted fast. It's pretty alarming, especially if you accidentally run into an enemy you didn't know was there. But that just kind of necessitates proper scouting. But I didn't really feel like they eased you into that. I think you're just kind of thrown in and it was like, bam, oh wow. Now, the command points are an interesting system of movement. It's nice because it allows you to move the same character more than once as long as they still have AP around. And the only downfall with that, I would say, is Rosie and Largo basically have to be there. You're of course going to bring Alicia because she's powerful and she's likable. Welkin's always there, he's the main character. He's equivalent to a Roy or a Hector or something like that. But Rosie and Largo, I don't know, they really didn't rub me the right way to begin with, and I despise the fact that I had to take them for those extra CP points. Now, it would have been nice to have chosen who you wanted to distribute those to. Apparently in later games they've solved this issue, but it was kind of annoying in this case. The player units, they never seem to defend as well. Like I mentioned, if you run into an enemy unit, they will shoot you. Why don't my units ever do that, man? It seems like sometimes they try it, but they're not very accurate. And other times, they just let the enemy run right by them, right up to them, and then shoot them in the head. And I'm like, why didn't you fucking just look and shoot them back? It was kind of frustrating at times. Now, there's not so much of a tutorial in this game. You get some easy munitions at the beginning, but I feel like they could have used a tutorial more complex items, like the command orders. Like when it says, the big one for me was awaken potential. Well, it never really defined what that meant. Does that mean they are guaranteed to get their hidden potential awaken? Do I have to do that for it to awaken? Or can it just happen naturally by chance? Like, there were so many questions I had, and the game didn't really answer any of them. Finally, con-wise, the terrain can be frustrating at times. But there's a lot of situations where it's just like, okay, there's a rock here or a guardrail here. I should be able to shoot over this. It's not very high. And then my character, because you don't have first-person view, you don't see the line of sight from their gun. You see a third-person view aim. And then my character would like shoot right into the fucking hitbox of the rock. And I was like, for fuck's sakes, you guys. Like, just try a little harder. Lift that gun like 2 inches higher. That was also a little annoying. Overall, though, I think great game. It doesn't overstay its welcome too much, but it is fairly long. There's still lots to do in it. About, I think, 17 chapters or something like that. Plus, you got about 8 skirmish missions. If you buy it on Steam, you're pretty much getting the DLC with it, which is like another 3 missions, plus a whole bunch of skirmishes. And it's got all the special character missions, about, let's see, how many? Maybe 3 or 4 extra special character missions as well. So that's pretty good. As far as difficulty goes, I played on normal, and that was challenging enough. If you're a masochist, you might enjoy hard or very hard. Now, for the score. Gameplay, I think the gameplay is all there. It's very tight, very good, and once you understand the rules of the game, it's pretty much straightforward. I'll give the gameplay a 2.5 out of 3. It's not perfect at all times, but it is pretty good. Addiction, I think it struggled a little bit here. While it is addicting to keep watching the next story after next story, when you fail something, there's not the addiction to pull you back in. Especially when it's a long mission and you fail near the end and you haven't saved since the beginning of the mission. That's really annoying. It'd be nice to have some more frequent checkpoints or save states that were a little easier to manage. So for addiction, I could only give it a 1.5 out of 2. For reliability, 1 out of 1, no question in my mind. It ran perfectly and never had a problem with it. It did close. It seems to have a problem closing, like it always thinks it closed improperly, but that could very well be a problem with my computer. For the atmosphere, I think they do a good job building up the sense of atmosphere. Like, you get to know the characters really well. You know the settings in which they take place. This place is like, oh, Gerlandio, a fortress. Oh, it's really nice. It's dark. It's got the nice castles and everything you would expect for that. You go to the desert. Well, they build little desert houses and all these different things. They did a good job of building that world. Although it doesn't really impress that feeling upon the player. It's all visually there, but I feel like I don't feel like I am engrossed in the world emotionally. So I can only give it a 1 out of 2 for atmosphere. For the replay value, I always find these a little hard to replay when they're so story-based. It is there. You could replay it. There's lots of different achievements to get and things like that. And there's always, when you beat the game once and you start New Game Plus, you can always replay those story missions over and over for better ranks. But that's not really my kind of goal. So out of 2, I think I'm only going to give it a 0.8. That seems kind of weird, but that didn't quite make a 1 for me. It's not 0.5, so 0.8 seems fair. Alright, that means the final score is a 6.8 out of 10. Don't let that be misleading. I know it doesn't sound very high, but I really do feel like this is one of the better games I've played this year, especially if you're into strategy, tactics kind of games. So go check it out. It's definitely not for everybody, especially if you're not into anime and things like that. But I think the story is there, the gameplay is there, that makes it really interesting. So thanks for watching, guys. There should be a gameplay video up for this as well. In the meantime, stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you all again soon.